You ready?
Yeah.
Perfect. Today we are giving you all a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reverse climate change. I know you all wish you could turn back time and undo some of the mistakes you've made, and right now we're giving you that chance. In case you're wondering about this issue, right now we put 40 billion tons of carbon in the air every year. And in case you don't know what that number means in human impacts, that is an amount of carbon that is heating the atmosphere, acidifying the ocean, and literally poisoning people. Our planet is becoming unlivable because the oceans can no longer absorb the amount of carbon we're pumping into the air. And this is only getting worse. If you look at the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, that number is just skyrocketing. It is just exponentially increasing. If you want to see it on a longer time scale, you can see that basically since the Industrial Revolution, the amount of carbon has just increased so dramatically. And really, you can tell from this, that is not slowing down. So, we literally, at this point, need negative emissions to keep global warming, to keep the global temperature below a 2 degrees Celsius increase. We can't just slow down. We can't just pick some option that reduces the impacts. We actually need to go backwards. It's the only way. Reverse climate change is the only way to keep this planet livable. You're probably wondering, is that even possible? That sounds too good to be true. That sounds like a pitch. That sounds like someone's trying to sell me something. We are not trying to sell you something. We're trying to help you pick something that is going to save human lives. This is possible with oxyfuel, a form of carbon sequestration.
An infomercial.
Carbon sequestration, we're going to explain to you how that works. It's a really interesting process that makes our air cleaner and actually creates electricity. We have someone to help us explain it. Someone from Australia. From the oxyfuel factory in Australia. I also have this. There we go.
You got to turn that.
Volume, thank you so much.
Keyboard, that black panel. It's on
Get
the
the-
keyboard.
It's on the keyboard.
Keyboard you're holding.
Yes.
In the right, so that's the right corner.
Ooh, there's a volume button.
Yeah, we turned it down to the morning.
Okay.
Playing song.
Okay, we're going to try that.
Is the oxy-fuel process. Before combustion, nitrogen is stripped from oxygen in an air separator. The leftover oxygen is then purer than the normal air we breathe. When combusted with a fossil fuel, it produces CO2 and water vapour. This combination is put through turbines to generate electricity. Afterwards, the water vapour is cooled, condensed and removed, and the remaining CO2 gas is safely captured. Those are the three main carbon
All right, so after seeing that lovely video with the help
Captured
from
CO.
our Australian friend, I'm going to go over the reasons why this can actually feasibly work. So the first reason, and perhaps the most important, is that this process is natural. Carbon sequestration happens anyway through natural, biological, and chemical processes. Everything that we've done this far to get ourselves into this climate change mess has been engaging in unnatural processes. The second reason is that we can mimic these natural processes really easily with technology that we already have. We don't need to hire a team of scientists or engineers to figure out how to make this technology work. We already have it. We just need to put it in place. The third reason is that it's a simple two-step process that people can understand. We can advertise this to a large amount of people without having to give them a huge amount of background information. We can actually just boil it down to two simple steps: capture carbon, store carbon. The fourth reason is that it's safe and relatively low risk. When carbon is captured and made into a liquid, it's in a stable form, and then it is placed underground in porous rocks that is protected by a layer of impermeable rock, which I will demonstrate with this science experiment. Can I please have a volunteer in the audience who'd like to?
Don't volunteer.
The water will act as carbon, the sponge will act as the porous rock, and the tray will work as the impenetrable rock layer. Would you please insert the carbon into the porous rock? Excellent, thank you so much. No. And now when we put the impermeable rock layer over the porous rock, could you please push down with your hand? Is your hand wet?
No.
Why?
Because of the impermeable rock.
Exactly, which demonstrates that carbon sequestration. The next reason is that this is a low-cost operation. It's cheaper than recovery from climate change. Investing in this kind of technology now is going to help us save a lot in the long run than having to recover from a climate change disaster. And the last reason is also incredibly compelling, is that the byproducts of the oxy-fuel process can generate electricity. This means that we're removing carbon from the air, making our atmosphere cleaner, and generating a cleaner type of energy.
So, building oxy-fuel systems, which you can see right here, a carbon capture system in Canada, is the only way to reverse the impacts of climate change. It's one that takes carbon from the air, stores it safely, and turns it into energy. Carbon sequestration is the only way to go, especially when you consider the other options. Who came here today to present on the atmospheric shield? Who is from that group?
Can you raise your hands a little higher, please? It's you guys?
Do you want to tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about what happens when you shoot volcanoes into the atmosphere?
Well, we're not shooting a volcano.
Into the atmosphere when volcanoes erupt.
Tell us why this really won't work. You can be honest now, you already did your presentation. Why isn't it going to work?
There's no reason it wouldn't work.
All right,
Just a lot of
well,
side effects.
He's
German.
That will not work. While it potentially cools Earth by only a few tenths of a degree for several years, it's not the way to go. Solar geoengineering would likely make the planet much drier and potentially disrupt monsoon seasons in India and create drought in other tropical regions. This technique would also help eat away the protective ozone shield of our planet, and it would cause air pollution as a part of that. It would also do nothing to counteract the problem of ocean acidification, which occurs when the seas absorb high levels of CO2 from the atmosphere. And also, I believe you all suggested sulfur mining as your main form of getting this resource. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Well, sulfur mining, let me tell you, very toxic, extremely harmful for health of miners in this field, and many miners have lost consciousness in this process. So I would like to say that that's not a great way to go.
If I can say,
So
nobody under the age of 18 should be allowed into a sulfur mine.
Well, I'm not finished yet. Not only is this option terrible for the environment, but if the impacts of climate change worsen and nations cannot agree on what scheme to deploy or at what temperature the planet's thermostat should be set, then conflict or even war could result as countries unilaterally begin programs to inject sulfates in the atmosphere. And I will tell you that there are multiple scientists that have claimed that this process is barking mad and insane.
So are you saying we should not have volcanoes explode to save the planet?
We should not. This is a poor plan.
What about our next option? Oh, you want to go on that?
Yeah, so based on your guys' presentation, I took a couple notes down. So she already mentioned sulfur mining. First, that's a non-renewable resource. Looking it up, it takes millions of years to regenerate. You'll be a million years dead. Mining more? You want to mess with the environment even more than we already are? Okay.
Yes. That's the whole point of geoengineering.
One of the major sulfur mining centers is in the Ukraine, and right now it's incredibly politically unstable because the Russian, another sulfur mining competitor, interfering in that civil war in the region. So good luck getting sulfur from there in a reasonable manner. And then one more thing, you say do something. Why don't you do something more environmentally friendly, such as oxy-fuel combustion?
Whoa! You're gonna talk to us about drilling into the earth?
Who here came to advocate for turning the rainforest into like a giant
Raise your
carbon
hands.
bomb?
Raise your hands. If you guys, yeah?
Okay, you can tell us. Get it up. Why isn't this going to work?
Ours is backed by science. It will 100% work. And it brings prosperity to everyone. So,
To everyone?
everyone.
Every person.
Yep.
And not going to work.
Truman, you want to talk a little bit about why we should not? Oh, rain
I'll
again.
talk about it again, I think. I'd like to say, so while this program would potentially reduce summertime temperatures, we know that global climate change is not just about summertime and warm temperatures. It is a all-inclusive issue that we need to address holistically. Extensive research has yet to be done and still needs to be done, which costs time and money and resources, all of which we do not have access access to. We need to solve this problem now. And because deforestation was one of the recommendations that y'all proposed, does that mean that we're just going to start increasing deforestation programs and depleting natural resources that people rely on?
We make money doing it.
And make money while doing it? Awesome. Okay, that sounds bad. So doing this would not only deplete global natural resources, but would also drastically alter the natural ecosystems which all living organisms rely on.
Yeah, so you guys suggested raising the rainforest in the Amazon. Why do you have to raise that rainforest? First, you're eliminating one of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. And then second, you talk about indigenous rights, but you're literally raising the area that they're working in. Saying you're going to make money from it, you're going to privatize it and watch them get even wrecked even more than they already are. Second, you're proposing building more cities in that area after you raise it. Brazil just doesn't have money needed to build a city, let alone clear cut the Amazon and manage the area. Look at what happened in the Rio Olympics. How did that go?
You don't mean the indigenous people that you're saying that you're going to protect, huh?
Another thing on the vector-borne diseases, you can't eliminate the vector-borne disease just by getting rid of one localized area, like because mosquitoes totally exist only in the Amazon. So
Not if you eliminate the habitat, and there's actually no plants in the city.
but yeah,
No plants in the city.
the majority of malaria
Right.
cases and deaths.
Concrete
are
is our
actually
god.
in Southeast Asia, not South America.
Where there's banana trees that live as hosts for the vector-borne disease.
So are we trying to raise the rainforest in Africa and Southeast Asia as well? Because by doing that, then you'll like
We're going
attempt
one
to
area
eliminate
at a time.
vector-borne diseases. And then one more thing, I saw your proposal to grow crops and corn stuff in that area, and based on recent reports, Brazil's 2016 corn crop size continues to fall because of drying weather in the area.
Which will be great. Waxiness reduces respiration, so.
All right. And who here wanted to mess around with the oceans? Whose idea was that?
In the back?
Yeah? That sounds like a good idea to you?
I mean, if you saw our presentation, like,
Absolute, actually.
You don't see any like downfalls that could come from, playing around in the
These
water?
are downfalls, I would say.
Well, that's okay. We can talk about the downfalls.
The only thing falling down is this carbon, which is getting sequestered in the bottom.
Let's consult with our team of scientists.
Okay, so first, it takes at least 1,000 years of ocean and mix and spin carbon dioxide to sink. Second, the more carbon dioxide that enters the water, the lower the ability of the ocean to take it up. So if you keep increasing uptake, it's going to get harder and harder as time goes on. Hunter's already talked about the conversion of CO2 to carbonic acid. First, I thought it's bad for the marine ecosystem. Second, also kills the reef. Great job. Another thing is when you're suggesting using phytoplankton to mess with the ocean. So when a plankton bloom runs its course, the organic material that it's going to produce is going to sink deeper water. So this is going to cause more oxygen uptake in those regions. And these conditions are going to cause significant die-offs in marine life, including fish, shellfish, anything else that lives there. That actually happened in 2006 in the coastal region off the coast of Oregon. Another thing, the deeper water is going to resurface and the CO2 is going to reappear. Another study shows that crustacean is actually fed with CO2-enriched organisms to layers a slower growth rate. So that's just one example of how it's going to mess with the marine ecosystem. Second, like I said, it's going to deplete the oxygen levels in the water. And then this sets the stage for producing more nitrous oxide and methane. Those are two potent greenhouse gases that are going to form. And then another thing, which I think is the biggest part of this, is that once you have plankton produce enough stuff from taking in CO2 and other nutrients, they're going to make dimethyl sulfide, which when released creates clouds, and clouds block out the sun, reducing solar activity. And that reduces phytoplankton activities back to pre-fertilization levels. You're wasting money on this. Another thing, you suggest using iron to fertilize the ocean. Yes, so you do need to do that, but more iron mining, like the other group with mining sulfur, why do you have to mess with the environment even more? Another thing is mining releases toxic iron arsenite, which has adverse effects on the nervous system, liver, cardiovascular system, and the respiratory system. So at that point, I don't even know what else to say. You can try doing it and see if it works, but at that point, if you have to roll back, you're wasting my money.
All right. All these ideas have so many problems. I think you can all tell this. But they also have some major sort of themes in common.
Is that all these ideas could trigger a global ice age. And I'm sure that many of you are probably familiar with the 2002 20th Century Fox animated adventure comedy Ice Age, starring America's darling Ray Romano. This film, with a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, certified fresh, and the 15th most grossing franchise of all time, is a haunting story about the perils of a global ice age. Heed these warnings, as this may be your future if we're to go ahead with ocean modification, surface reflectivity, and an atmospheric shield, all of which can cause a global ice age. Would you like to be living like this squirrel, scrambling for a single nut in a barren wasteland of food scarcity? I don't think so. Carbon sequestration is the only geoengineering technology that can get us out of the effects of global climate change and not cause an ice age. We all know.
Alright, all of these ideas are so incredibly dangerous. If the math is even off by a little bit, you could be setting off volcanoes at the wrong time, you could be screwing up solar reflectivity. Basically, any error in calculation could cause enormous planetary impacts, could cause another ice age. But beyond that, these all require us to slow down production. All of these methods take away some of the impact of climate change, but none of them let us keep producing like we're producing right now. They all require us to eventually change our economic system. As you know, our system is built on a model of continual growth. We cannot slow down. These just buy us time. They don't let us to continue as we're living. Now, when we slow down production, we stop making the food and goods that people need to survive. When we slow down production, people will starve, and eventually the global economy will collapse. So, oxyfuel lets us keep going. Oxyfuel lets us keep producing, lets us keep making food for all the people on this planet, because any emissions that we create can be captured and stored. This does not require us to reconsider how we run our entire planet. It simply deals with the impacts of living on Earth. So, you're probably thinking that this is too good to be true, right? Something that allows us to continue living and just simply capture the toxins that we put out into the air. Well, it does require some work to make this happen, but luckily for you, we have a plan that lets you choose to set back the clock on climate change.
So wide-scale implementation of oxyfuel is going to be our generation's space race. We have the chance to reverse climate change and also produce energy while we're doing it. And we have a 33-year timeline. So why not? And then the Congressional Research Service breaks this process down into 4 steps: invention, innovation, adoption, and diffusion. And we're going to begin now in 2017 with that first step of invention. So we're going to be researching new and more efficient prototypes, as well as potential policy barriers in various countries. And research will be a vital component of the entire process, adjusting for new knowledge and more efficient models. One model right now is going to be about $1 billion, but will get cheaper and also produces energy, which we could sell for profit and make back some of that money. So for a 3-year period, from 2017 to 2020, we'll be working with the 193 nations that are a part of the United Nations in order to troubleshoot policy barriers, geographically map the placement of the plants, and present a clear timeline for when countries should be preparing for installation and the budget. We'll be building a number of plants proportional to the amount of carbon emissions that said country puts into the atmosphere. So China's going to be putting in a lot versus Sweden maybe not so many. In 2021, we're going to be commercializing newly developed prototypes and thoroughly testing the system. And that same year, we'll publish and circulate press releases to every country about the importance of carbon sequestration and the steps each country is taking. Like Madeline said, it's a really simple process to understand, so why not involve the public and let them know what we're accomplishing. In 2022, confirmation plans will pass through government regulations. So in terms of the US, that'll be the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy, and making sure we're up to code and up to their regulations. From 2023 to 2030, a 7-year period, we'll place carbon emissions in the top 10 countries with the most carbon emissions and run tests for efficiency and then track that 7 years of data. So when we present this as a more global plan, we'll have data to back up our proof, and we can look at it and also troubleshoot any problems that arise from those 10 plants. From 2030 to 2040, we'll have a decade to have widespread implementation of new technology. And in the middle of that timeline, on 2045, we'll start the diffusion step, the last step in our 4-step plan. which is increased adoption and use of technology to countries outside of the United Nations. And we'll use that data gathered in the past 7-year period to prove the efficiency and that it works. 2050, we're at our goal, but it's really no worry. Like, we've done all the work. There's not much left to do, except for adjust plans for lower cost, higher efficiency prototypes as they become available. This is going to create a new global industry. It'll be a driver of economic growth, and it will create jobs and become gradually cheaper over time.
All right, so today you have the opportunity to get member countries of the UN to invest in a technology that lets the world keep running as it's running and simply adds resilience to our planet and lets us continue living here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.